Welcome. Namaste. Welcome. Good morning. Good morning, everybody on the HealthFlix Global Wellness community. You're really, really welcome. I'm delighted that you are here. I'm Uma Dinsmore-Tuli, and I'm broadcasting to you from Stroud. I'm at my fireplace in the Cotswolds in the southwest of England. And it's a real delight to be able to share with you this morning the practices that can really support us to be calm and present, and how it is that oxytocin, which is the most wonderfully nourishing and nurturing anti-inflammatory kind of practice. I'm getting a bit distracted here because my husband's just kind of working it. That oxytocin as a presence in the body can be cultivated. It's our love hormone. It's an endorphin that allows for us to feel connected, and that's really important at this time. So my remit this morning is to tell you a little bit about the practices I'm going to share, and then just allow us all to practice together. I'm going to share with you some Total Yoga Nidra, which is a rest practice, and some practices of Yoni Shakti. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about why I've chosen those practices, why I think they might be relevant and helpful for you, and at this moment. And then we'll do the practices together. A heads up on what you'll need is that I'm going to stay seated, and you're invited when we get to the place where there'll be practice, probably in about 5 or 10 minutes. You'll need to be able to lie down if you would like. So a practice of Yoga Nidra would involve nothing in terms of movement at all. You'll need to be able to hear me and to be able to lie down comfortably, and maybe to get a little cover on you if you'd like to do that. So if you haven't got that already, now might be a good opportunity to have that available so that you can snuggle up. And whilst I outline a little bit about why Yoga Nidra in particular, Total Yoga Nidra is what I'm sharing with you, why that is of value in allowing us to access like an innate sense of, the best way to describe it is being able to settle down underneath whatever is happening and to tune in to our capacity to let go, to relax, to be nurtured. I'm talking a lot about nurture and nourishment. And in yoga practice, we often have quite a lot of emphasis on discipline, and there is an ascetic tradition of yoga that's about like endeavor. And Yoga Nidra is actually not like that. It's all about ease, nurture, nourishment, and a key ingredient of this is a sense of trust. So that's a thing that can get a little bit lost in a time of uncertainty. So we're in a period of uncertainty and maybe confusion, a sense of not exactly knowing what's going to happen. So it can be really hard to relax and to settle in that situation. And that's what I'm going to offer with you to you today. So I'm a yoga therapist. So it's important actually that you can trust that what I'm doing is going to be of value. So what I'm going to give you is a little bit of my background so you understand where these practices come from. I'm a yoga therapist. I've been teaching and practicing yoga since 1969, which is a long time ago. I was very young when I learned yoga. And I've been working for about the past 20 years, most specifically with women's health issues, but generally speaking with practices that allow people to tune into our innate intuitive wisdom and into a space of nourishment, nurture, and rest. So the practices I do are very gentle, very held, very supportive. I usually work in a circle, tune in with everybody. And what we're doing here in our circle of belonging this morning is to create a sense of connection, even though we are distant. Because what I've been doing for the past 20 years is allowing us to develop practices that don't impose specific disciplines, or they don't impose outer ideas of what you should look like or what you should be doing, but they tune into what is already present as a sense of embodied wisdom being already present, and we tune into that. So we cultivate intuitive awareness. Yoga Nidra is really very good for that. The practices that I share are particularly open. I'm post lineage. That means that I'm not particularly tied to any allegiance to any single guru or school. What I do is ask the question for you this morning: how may I be of service to you? That's how I work with individual clients and with the groups of women and girls that I work with. So the sense is that I'm putting my skills at your service, and that means we tune in a responsive way. So that will then empower you to tune in a responsive way to your intuitive knowing and wisdom. And Yoga Nidra helps that to happen because you don't have to do anything. That's the key thing you need to know. We've established something called the Yoga Nidra Network, and that's a network that's very open and welcoming to many different training schools. Lots of people have trained in lots of different ways with Yoga Nidra, and we're welcoming in basically whatever it is that works, rather than one particular school will be like, so what this morning is really needful. So I'm tuning into you this morning on a Saturday morning. Bless you for being here at 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning. There's a lot of other things you could be doing. So what I'm trusting is that if I tune into that and the fact that you're present and we're in this extraordinary pandemic situation, that what we can do is create a practice together that allows for everybody to settle into nourishment and nurture, not to have to move around, just to listen and to receive a sense of rest as a truly nourishing act. It's also a kind of medicine. So we're listening into our own selves. I hope that gives you a sense of what it's like. If you've never done Yoga Nidra before, all you really need to do to know is that there isn't anything to do. Once you've arrived, just being here, showing up, bless you, at 9 o'clock in the morning is a good thing. And all you need to do is make sure you've got a comfortable little nest. It's a little bit like snuggling into a little nest where you can be warm and easeful and comfortable. And what we'll do is spend about 20 minutes doing, maybe 15, 20 minutes doing the practice. And we're tuning in not just with Yoga Nidra. Nidra literally just means sleep. So Yoga Nidra is the kind of yoga that is, you could define it as the yoga of sleep or the sleep of the yogis. But effectively, the active ingredient is that quality, that energy of just at the moment when you're just about to fall asleep. So we'll probably hover around there. And this is a great thing to do first thing in the morning. So you may have just got up, you may have been listening to the previous speaker, you may have been awake for a long time, or you might just be like surfacing out of sleep. But what I observe is that if we can put in this practice right now, this morning, you may find that through the rest of the day, you find it a little bit easier to come back to kind of the bottom line, that it's like sinking down into the place where you can be nourished by your own settledness and less reactive and less blown around by what's going on, and actually able to settle. So that's why it's good to do it this morning. If you're ready to do that, I'll invite you to settle down now, and then at the end there'll be time for you to, maybe we'll do some Q&As at the end if you'd like to ask questions, or we can continue with the practice. So I'm inviting you now to get ready for the practice of Yoga Nidra, Total Yoga Nidra, which is an open post-lineage kind of approach to Yoga Nidra that draws on many things. I'm going to give you a little sound check. You'll be able to hear a number of little chimes and things. That's what they look like. That's what you're hearing. So it's not mysterious. They're not coming from out the ether. There's different elements, which will be earth, water, fire, air, and ether. I'll be connecting with those. And I also will at some point be playing a little instrument that looks like this. It's not necessary to have the instruments. A lot of people just work with the sound of the voice, but I thought this morning, since you've made the effort to be here, I will make the effort to bring along some additional sounds that I find are very supportive. Our intention is to receive nurture, to receive nourishment, to receive rest as a deep medicine, so that the whole of the rest of the day, we've got this sort of access to a really inner resource of healing and an inner resource that allows us to cope better, basically, with uncertainty, because Yoga Nidra is a place of uncertainty, because you don't really know whether you're awake or asleep. You don't need to pay any attention to what I'm saying. You just need to hear that there is a voice that's audible to you. So just set the sound level so that's okay. And when you're ready to go, I will begin. So are you sitting comfortably? If you're sitting, you can remain sitting, but I'm going to encourage you, if you're at all able, to lie down and to feel into what you might like to do in order to allow yourselves to become even more comfortable. So welcome to this practice of Total Yoga Nidra. Welcome to this practice of Total Yoga Nidra. Welcome home to yourself. Welcome home to yourself. Welcome home to yourself, and welcome to this practice with the only intention being to be nourished, nurtured, and able to receive deep rest. Welcome home to yourself. If there's anything that you could do to allow yourself to be even a tiny little bit more comfortable, please do go ahead and do that now. Maybe let out a little sigh. And in letting out a sigh, perhaps you could readjust the body and feel all the places where you are receiving support from the earth beneath. So especially in the morning, when you've maybe allowed yourself to move and stretch a little bit, or perhaps not, take particular attention to the position of your head. You can lie on your back, you can lie on your side, you can lie on your belly, you can prop yourself up. It really doesn't matter what position you're in, so long as you are comfortable. And please know, as we go through this practice for the next 15 minutes, that anytime you might feel the need to move, you're really welcome to do so. You can notice the desire to move arising, and then if it kind of passes over, that's fine. You can let it go. But if you can sense that the body is persistently saying, I'm not so comfortable, you just respond to that. That will be the body letting you know that there is a need to move. So you're free to move, free to open your eyes and look around. You're free to take a big yawn now. Take a yawn and a sigh. And as you settle down, just be aware of all the sounds that can be heard. You have arrived. Welcome. You have arrived. And now there isn't anything else that you need to do. There isn't anywhere else that you need to be going. There's absolutely nothing required of you. Absolutely nothing required of you. All that you need to do is simply to be here. And you are here. So that is enough. And all of you is welcome. Welcome the sounds that you can hear outside, maybe in and around the room in which you're resting, maybe outside of the building. Could you notice sounds? What could you hear? Maybe you can notice the sounds on this broadcast and welcome those in too, sounds that are far away, as if perhaps now as you rest, that you can imagine yourself resting at the center of a great circle of sound. And as you rest at the center of this great circle of sound, you could gradually maybe notice, could you welcome the sounds that are very close to you? So the sounds maybe of your own breath coming and going. Could you notice maybe the feeling of the breath coming in and out of the nostrils? And if there's anything you could do to allow the body to be a tiny bit more comfortable, please go ahead, do that now. And notice maybe sounds that you can hear as you readjust. Welcome all the sounds. And welcome the sense also of the surface beneath you. Could you notice all the different places where the body is being received by the surface beneath. Could you notice the back of the head or the side of the head, depending on how you're lying, just being received by the surface beneath? And could you notice, as the body settles, just how it is? To know that all of you is welcome. Everything that arises is welcome. The intention is only to be present. Do you drop out, perhaps, of thinking, doing? No need to do anything. Nothing that you need to do. Just to be. Could you arrive in this place of just being by simply noticing all that is right now and knowing that it's all welcome, and so are you. In this moment, just as you are in this place at this time, just to be here is more than enough. And in this settling, welcoming the sounds, could you welcome maybe the touch of the air on your face? Could you notice the touch of the air on the eyelids? Or the touch of the air on the tips of the fingers and the palms of the hands? And as we settle now, could you welcome each and every breath coming in and going out? Could you welcome each and every breath coming in and going out in an easy balance? Whatever way the breath comes, whatever way the breath comes, coming in and going out. Would you notice the passage of the breath traveling in? How far in does the breath come? And could you notice the passage of the breath traveling out? How far out does it come? How far out does the breath go? All the way out into the air, outside of the body, and all the way in, simply noticing how far in does the breath come on the inhale, and how far out does the breath go on the exhale. And in this welcome for the breath, let there also be the welcome that the body feels when the weight of this body is received into the surface beneath, exhaling and giving away the weight of the body, being received, being welcomed, being received, being welcomed, and receiving the nourishment of rest in every place, in every place. Could you notice the tip of the tongue resting, just resting in the mouth? Nothing needs to be said, nothing needs to be said. Noticing the different tastes inside the mouth, maybe noticing the water there, the saliva inside the mouth. Letting the tongue rest, and the throat rest, and noticing the two lips, and maybe welcoming all sensations arising in perception as you receive the nourishment of rest, the lips resting. Noticing the tip of the nose, breath coming in and going out through the nostrils. Could you welcome all sensations arising at the tip of the nose, at the space between the eyebrows and the eyes? Perhaps could you notice the eyes resting, eyes resting? Could you notice the little space in front of the closed eyes, just where the insides of the eyelids rest over the eyes? Noticing that place, welcoming the eyes to rest, welcoming the eyes to rest. Welcoming all sensations in the eyes as they rest, receiving the nourishment of rest, right temple and left temple. Nourishment of rest, nourishment of rest. And in the ears, could you welcome all the sounds that can be heard? Could you welcome all the sounds that can be heard? Inside the inner ears, the touch of the air on the outer ears. Could you receive the nourishment of rest and all of the sounds inside the ears, outside and deep inside the head, receiving the nourishment of rest over the forehead, and into the scalp. Every hair on this head is welcome. Every hair on this head is welcome. And letting the scalp rest, the whole of the head and the face resting, receiving the nourishment of rest in every place. So welcome, so welcome, so welcome just to rest. All the way through the face and the head and the scalp and down through the back of the neck. All the way through the right side of the neck and the left side. Left collarbone and right, letting the body rest as the awareness travels through the body, receiving the nourishment of rest. Left collarbone and right, and the space at the base of the throat, resting between the two collarbones. Let there be a welcome for every part. All the way down through now from the base of the neck through the shoulders and the two armpits resting, and the arms right and left, left and right. All the way through into the elbows, left and right, resting the arms down through the forearms, right and left. Down into the wrists now, left and right, receiving all sensations arriving in perception and receiving rest. Two hands rest, palms of the hands receiving sensations, welcoming all sensations arising in the palms of the hands and the backs of the hands. The backs of the hands. And the tip of the right hand thumb, tip of the left hand thumb, receiving all sensations as the hands rest. There's nothing you need to do. A left index finger, right index finger, right middle finger, left middle finger, right fourth finger and the left fourth finger. Welcome the two little fingers resting now, the whole of both hands resting, 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 the whole of both hands resting, all the way through, resting, receiving the nourishment of rest, all the way through, resting, receiving the nourishment of rest, from the fingertips up through to the armpits, from the armpits through into the rib cage, the right ribs and the left shoulder blade and right. Welcome rest in between the two shoulder blades in the back of the heart. Welcome the rest that comes from the back of the heart through to the breastbone. Could you welcome all sensations arising now in the thoracic cavity, all the way through. Receiving, receiving, receiving the nourishment of rest, receiving, receiving, receiving the nourishment of rest all the way through. Deep in the heart space and down into the belly, along the spine and down into the belly. Letting the curve of the belly rest and rest. Coming through to the belly and the pelvis, receiving all sensations arising in perception through into the pelvis. Right hip and left. Left hip and right, right groin and left. And welcoming all sensations arising in perception in the pelvis and down through the buttocks and the two thighs. Down through the knees, resting, resting, receiving the nourishment of rest through the knees, the shins and the calves. Right ankle and left. Left ankle and right into the two heels and the soles of the feet resting, letting the feet rest, receiving the nourishment of rest through the feet and the tops of the feet and down into the toes. Right big toe and left. Left big toe and right. Second toes, third toes, fourth toes, and the little toes resting, and all the spaces in between the toes resting. All the way through. Down through the legs and the feet and the soles of the feet and in the spaces in between the toes so that the whole body can rest, the whole body can rest. The whole body is resting. The whole body resting from the soles of the feet to the top of the head, back of the body, front of the body, right side and left and both sides together, inside and out, inside and out, receiving the nourishment of rest all the way through, all the way through. Whole body is welcome. Whole body is welcome. Could you notice maybe parts of the body drifting into sleep and parts of the body awake? Could you notice maybe the mind alert and attentive, and maybe the body resting? Could you welcome the resting and the alertness? Alert but resting, asleep and awake at the same time. Asleep and awake at the same time. So how's that? To be resting here in the openness of awareness, which is Yoga Nidra. To be resting and alert at the same time. To be alert and resting. Asleep and awake. At the same time, at the same time. Sleeping, waking, waking, sleeping, alert, resting, resting, alert, inside and out. Receiving the nourishment of rest. And just to be here is more than enough. The whole of you is welcome, just as you are. All that arises is welcome, just as it is. Welcome home to yourself. Welcome home to yourself. Just resting, just here, just now. And in this place, in this resting place, in this little pause between there's nothing required. Everything is welcome. The whole of you is welcome. Every cell is welcome to rest. Resting now. Resting now. Receive the nourishment of rest and maybe feel in this rest that perhaps parts of the body maybe are a little warmer than others. And that maybe as the breath comes a little easier, that you could welcome the warmth in this body, welcome the rest to spread through every place, and that as you gently bring your awareness to the fact that we are slowly and very gently coming towards the end of this practice, that perhaps there might be a little movement, maybe just the movement of the tongue inside the mouth, maybe just a little yawn. Maybe perhaps it could be as if when you notice the taste in the mouth and the presence of the tongue, you could just maybe move the tongue around the lips and perhaps make little tiny movements as if your thumb might touch each fingertip. And very, very gently, as if a little fluid flow of awakening might move through the land of this body. Could you just feel and listen in to how the body feels after these moments of rest? What was the body calling for? Would it feel really nice just to stay lying here now and not have to sit up? Because you can do just as you please. You don't have to sit up, just rest. Or does it feel as if you want to have a big old stretch? And if you do, ooh, pandiculation, stretching into the fingers and the toes and maybe making a great big long stretch. And only if it feels like a good idea, as we move towards the end of the practice, you're invited just perhaps, if you like, to kind of curl up, maybe hug the knees into the chest and maybe rock a little from one side to the other, rocking. Or maybe even if you don't curl up like that, you could just rock with a little rhythmic rock awakening as we reconnect with the surface beneath, feeling the surface that's been holding you, feeling how it is to be here, and now maybe welcoming the sounds that you can hear outside, maybe making a little louder sound with the breath. A little sigh. I would invite for you perhaps also to maybe rub your hands, pull your ears a little bit, and then perhaps maybe to wrap your arms around yourself like a great hug. Receive the nourishment of your own self-hug as I offer you a blessing at the close of the practice. So we've come towards the end of this practice of Yoga Nidra now. Know yourself truly to be this openness of awareness in which everything arises and dissolves. And here in this moment, as we come towards the end of the practice, I invite for you to remain horizontal or to be seated, whatever it is that you would like that's comfortable. And receive a blessing. May the nourishment of the earth be yours. May the clarity of light be yours. May the fluency of the ocean be yours, and may the protection of the ancestors be yours. And so, may a slow wind wrap these words of love around you. Maybe wrap up with a big hug. Wrap these words of love around you, an invisible cloak to mind your life. So may this practice of nourishment and nurture go with you through the whole day. This practice of Yoga Nidra is now complete. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening. The words of the poem are words by the late John O'Donoghue, great Celtic mystic and poet, philosopher. And I'd invite you now to really allow this practice of Total Yoga Nidra to nourish you for the rest of the day, to awaken your own capacity in your own oxytocin bubble from the Nidra practice, to rub your hands and now to bring in a sense of guidance and connection by rubbing your hands and maybe resting them right over your heart. And you can rest them over your heart. Take a moment just to drop your chin and be centered in the space of this practice. And I offer an affirmation. This is from the practices I share of Yoni Shakti, of the source power, connecting to the source power. This connects you to the source of your own inner wisdom and intuitive guidance. If it feels like a good idea to you, you're welcome to hear this affirmation and maybe affirm it to yourself silently, or you could voice it, or you just let it waft over you and maybe some other meaningful statement comes to you and you can offer that instead. But what I offer you is the affirmation as follows. With great respect and love, I honor my heart, my inner teacher. With great respect and love, I honor my heart, my inner teacher. With great respect and love, I honor my heart, my inner teacher. And I invite that intuitive guidance to be an inner resource and power to you that provides a sense of inner nurture and deep nourishment from the heart's wisdom, which is inexhaustible. We just need to listen to it. And that's what we've been doing. And that's what I encourage you to do, to take these practices of Yoga Nidra with you. It'll maybe see how your day runs after doing this practice. And maybe if it feels good, you could put in a Yoga Nidra practice easily there for yourself. Perhaps in the mornings, perhaps in the evenings. Any time is a good time. And yeah, I'm welcoming any questions that you might have about the practice. I can invite you to access lots and lots of free welcome. There's a little connecting with all of the questions and things. I'm offering, thank you, welcome, Katrier. I'm welcoming you also to access, if Nidra feels good, there's a lot of ways to access free Nidra. I'm offering like free Nidras every afternoon. If you get to the middle of the afternoon, 3 o'clock on my Facebook page, that's another free offering. Thank you so much for your thank yous. A lot of people sharing Yoga Nidra. I've trained lots of teachers. Lots of people have trained lots of teachers. It's a practice, I think, that is deeply nourishing for now. And yeah, I'm really happy to engage with any queries that you might have about it, knowing, of course, that you can access it pretty much whenever you need it for free online. There are many of us. I'm glad it was nourishing. Yeah, I think that, thank you, Lisa. I think that nourishment comes in many forms. So you can nourish yourself, support your immune systems with good nutrition, pleasant company. That might be company in person, but you know, tuning in to things like this gives you that kind of nourishment. But there is a deep nourishment in rest. And I would really recommend, don't cut on your sleep. Thank you. I'm so glad. The reference to the oxytocin, I'm trying to read all of these chats here. Let me just open them up. You felt like a child being soothed by her mother. I think this is actually, I mean, the way I share it is very maternal. Yeah. Can I talk about oxytocin a bit more? Okay, so one of the key things that I observe is that some of the highest levels of oxytocin arise in the body when women are in labor. very maternal, giving, nourishing experience. So what I try to do in the yoga practices, Nidra, is to recreate or invite opportunities to connect with this experience of nurture. And that doesn't mean we have to be breastfeeding or in labor, or, you know, that's not a feasible thing most of the time for a lot of people. But actually the qualities of trust, the qualities of being held, all of those, they boost our capacity to raise our oxytocin levels. Those oxytocin levels raise when we sing together, when we eat together. But when we can't be in community with people in person, this kind of heartfelt connection, I do feel, is a real thing to share. So that is a key way to raise your oxytocin levels. Connect with souls that inspire you online and with people around you. If they're around you in person, great. But if not, I feel we've done that right now. This practice has raised it. Bless you. So beautiful. I'm really great. It's a great start to the day. If there's another way to hear my Yoga Nidra, yes. You can join me on Facebook on my page this afternoon at 3 o'clock. And if you go to the Yoga Nidra Network, there's hundreds of free Yoga Nidras, including mine, in 18 different languages. It's all freely available, and that's a nice way to hear them. So yeah, you're really welcome to join us. I'm coming up to the last couple of minutes now, and I wanted to thank you all for being here and to invite you just to make a little space for Yoga Nidra. Get plenty of sleep also. Don't replace the sleep with a Nidra. Get 7 to 9 hours of sleep every night if you can. If you have trouble sleeping, use Yoga Nidra to help you drift back to sleep. Don't skimp on the sleep. Use Nidra as a sleep supplement, not a replacement. That's a top thing, especially in these times. We want to really nourish our resting capacity. So I'm seeing if there's any more questions. Oh, the name of the Celtic poet, he's called John O'Donoghue, Donohue, and it was from a book of blessings called Benedictus. It's also called To Bless the Space Between Us. So yeah, that was the poet I was quoting. Poetry is of great nourishment, and I usually use that within the Yoga Nidra as well. Okay, is that good? Is that helpful? I'm just trying to see if there's any last questions. I'm delighted to meet you all. It's beautiful to connect with you all who have been here, and those of you who listen afterwards also. I warmly invite you to be aware that this deep capacity for nourishment and rest is something we can cultivate within ourselves in any situation. It's always there. All we need is the opportunity to do nothing and get back into it. It's not something you can actively kind of like bring about, but what we do is we receive it. So actively create the conditions, maybe make a little nest in your space that you have. It doesn't have to be big, just somewhere where you can curl up or lie down and welcome this practice into your life. And the nourishment and nurture will raise your oxytocin levels and really help you to make a connection with yourself and with other people. Even if nobody is there directly in front of you, we have that capacity to build a heart connection, and that's what fosters our capacity to feel nourished, nurtured and rested. And I do hope this practice has also done that. I'm going to say goodbye and welcome you to the next speaker. Thank you so much for listening. It's a pleasure, and maybe I shall meet you at some other point in the Yoga Nidra world or Yoni Shakti world of practices that I share for nourishment and nurture. So you can find me online, and maybe we'll connect at some other point. Go well, be safe, be rested, keep rested. Okay, lovelies. Thank you so much. Thank you. Goodbye, everybody.